Hello, love. Welcome home to Eden, where we've been missing from Eden for so long that the garden has gotten completely trashed and we've got to clean it up. And the trouble is, it's been too long in the making. There's so much to do so fast that we might not even be here to enjoy this garden if we don't act quickly. You know, when there's a fire, you get everybody out of the house. You don't go rummaging around to get like your perfect belongings. No, you get your kids and your pets out, right? I've been reading this book, Upright Future, by Joshua S. Goldstein, how some countries have solved climate change and the rest can follow. Now, it turns out it's a very controversial book because environmentalists have been, people in general have been really afraid of nuclear power and the way that it might get in the hands of people for mass destruction, etc. They don't realize that nuclear power plants actually are made in a different way so that you can't make bombs out of the situation going on there. I'm talking to you about nuclear power today, and I want you to please hang in with me a little bit before you just freak out. Like, Eve, oh my God, now what are you talking about? Well, you're getting used to this, right? Almost everything I talk about is like this. Because I want us to be brave enough to think of solutions in the situation we're in. If we're on an island that was flooding, a desert island, and it was just us there alone, and we're praying to God, please God, send me a boat to save me. And this helicopter comes overhead, and we're like, hi guys, what are you doing here? And they're like, we came to save you. They're like, no, I'm scared of helicopters. I want a boat. Go. That was the rescue. Well, we're in that situation now, right? So we can't be choosy about what saves us. There's very clear science that shows us we have to get to zero emissions within a couple of years. just like a handful of years. It's not this idea of 30 years. It's not realistic for us to still be here, for our children to have a future. We've got to get to zero emissions. Zero. Everybody, within the next couple of years. And I was in complete despair about that fact because I'm in solar and I see how slow solar is going. Like, people are so afraid of doing anything new. They're like, oh, like I just saw a beautiful woman, she's an environmentalist, she's all into this, but when she found out that the panels, when they're installed onto her metal roof, might have to penetrate, with some screws, she's like, oh no, I can't do it. I can't imagine a screw going into my roof. Look, the most dangerous thing we can possibly do is to do nothing. So to take the risks to get your solar up there with the screws on your roof that maybe there'll be a leak someday. Actually, they warranty for at least 5 years, so that anything installed, there's no, they'll take care of it. And they'll take care of it after that. Think of it, 40,000 installs. They would be in a lot of trouble if it was causing everybody roof leakage and they weren't fixing anything that showed up. I mean, it does happen once in a while. But anyway, thinking about the solution available to us, solar energy's got some problems. One is that there is no storage, darling. There's no storage for all that energy being created. So there's like tons and tons of energy being created by wind and solar that floods the grid. It has nowhere to go and has to be actually sold to other states. It has to be gotten rid of. We don't have the technology yet for the batteries, right? So when you get solar, you actually are just as vulnerable as everybody else in a storm. You don't get to just be independent unless you have, some people set up tons and tons of car batteries, which will last a couple days, but that's not the solution for, the amount of power that we need for billions of people to go to zero emissions in the next couple of years. So I was pretty depressed thinking, oh no, there's no hope. We're going down in flames, literally flames everywhere. But when this book came out recently, this man actually came and gave the talk in my town. And then people started getting all, up in a row because how dare he say the solution could be nuclear? Well, let's just look at it and let's just understand that the helicopter's coming, not the pretty little yacht we wanted to get on. to be saved, it's a helicopter. You may be afraid of that swinging ladder you got to climb up because it's dangerous. But if there's a helicopter versus nothing to save the humans, to allow us to have a future here on this planet, we got to change so many things. Our behaviors, our way of being separate from each other. And the funny thing is, our supposed big enemy, Russia, right? Russia, turns out, is the major manufacturer of nuclear power plants that they are selling to countries all over the world. And Russia has come up with a new kind of power plant called the breakthrough power plant that actually uses the waste of itself to run on. Now look at this, the waste. So we're talking about coal, right? So the waste of coal. Everybody's afraid of nuclear waste. But the waste of coal, it comes to about 50,000 tons of fuel per day, right? That's for a city. 50,000 tons a day of waste. When it comes to nuclear power, it's 3 tons of waste per year. Now that comes down to the weight of the beef in a hamburger per person for their use of energy for their entire lifetime. You get what I'm talking about? This guy is onto some really good facts we need to think about. So the waste being so small, it means like for a whole city, for like a whole year, it's just on one truck, and that can be dealt with by incarcerating it in all the different ways. It has to be buried and protected for the hundreds of years for it to go down in its toxicity. And we know that a lot of the toxicity goes down right away, like in the first 50 years or so. It actually just dissipates a huge amount of it. So if you think about going zero emissions, wow, I was like, that's not possible. Billions of people are not going to go for any of this. This suddenly means it's possible because Sweden has already gone zero emissions. Get this, zero emissions, a whole country. What did they do? They went nuclear. They went majorly nuclear. And did they lower their consumption? No, their consumption went way up. Everybody's got, fancy this and fancy electric cars and all this, stuff because their nuclear power is so efficient and so cheap. And in addition, they went green. They went solar. They went wind. They went hydro. They got bicycles going everywhere, and they have public transportation. Zero emissions happens like this. Because nuclear power, it turns out, doesn't put out emissions like coal and the fossil fuel industry does. So the risk of death, right? We know there have been some meltdowns, but there were no deaths related to those meltdowns. I thought we were going to hear about thousands of people like Hiroshima, like just deformed and, on and on, but there hasn't been anything. Wow, it's so different to have a meltdown than to have 50 tons a day of coal burning into the atmosphere, giving us the chance for only like 10 more years to live on this planet. That's, you gotta which one is the scary one? It's the coal, guys. It's weighted over here. And this nuclear one, we can find a way to, it's not perfect. Of course we want to go green renewables eventually, but give science a little time. Fund the scientists. We didn't fund them. If we had been funding the scientists the last 30 years when we knew global warming was coming, there would be batteries by now that would be light and efficient for all that sun energy. But the trouble with hydro, there's a lot of hydro going on, is they flood the land. They take away the rivers and all the ecosystems that are going on to create these huge dams. That is a whole nother problem. And then you have the wind being like big surges of wind and then no wind. And then also the solar and the wind only lasting about 20 years before the whole thing has to be replaced with fossil fuels, making more of those panels and those big, windmills and such. Whereas the nuclear power, get this, nuclear power can be inserted. A plant can be put inside of a coal plant and use the entire infrastructure of that coal plant that's sending electricity out to everybody. So this is doable. Like if you think about next couple years, wow. And Russia being our savior instead of our evil enemy, because Russia has got it down now. They're creating these amazing plants that actually run on their own toxic waste and recycle it, and so there's even less waste and less and less. What? That turns everything on its head for environmentalists, because we were the ones like chaining ourselves to the linked fence, like no nukes, you know, of course, because that's what we believe. We're also associating nuclear power with bombs, with the it's going to turn into everybody. Well, look, we're putting at least in America, it's what, 60% of our taxes go to the war machine. We've been trying to kill ourselves off and everybody off for a long time. So but it hasn't happened yet, thank God, because of grace. Because of grace. I mean, we're still here by grace, tenuously allowed to be on this planet by grace. So can you even believe it? Like me talking about nuke stuff. Wow. I just want us to be able to exist. I just think humans are amazing beings, even if we're horrendously ignorant and violent and greedy and selfish and vain and, and patriarchally inclined and abusive to women and children. And okay, you could make a good case for it being time for humans to be kicked off the planet, especially the way that we are destroying it. But think of our potential. Like, look, guys, we've never given love a chance. We've never really given the feminine a chance. Not since, well, shouldn't say never. There were millions of years that we became humans through being in tune with the feminine, with the earth, as indigenous people and as nomadic tribes, where women were at the center of the tribe, and we were actually sharing everything, very, very entwined as men and women as one group. That was our main history. It's only a couple thousand years since, I guess, agriculture that we all became. That's at least the book Sex at Dawn talks about agriculture as the turning point where women become locked in the house and treated as property along with the cattle and everything, basically because a lot of the agricultural chores were too hard for women, whereas hunting and gathering we could all do together as a group. But you have millions of years of being entwined as a group in equality, and then you have a couple thousand years of absolutely oppressing the feminine, and now you have the humans about to not be able to exist anymore, because when you oppress the feminine for so long, she can't function, and wisdom goes away. The feminine holds the wisdom for life, for sustaining life, for bringing life. That whole brain capacity of the feminine is something the men, I believe, can cultivate, but they gotta want to. They've gotta want to follow the feminine instead of lead her. Follow her. Be leaders as men because you're championing her cause. That's the kind of leader you need to be. She tells you what's needed and you go out and make it happen with that strong masculine energy. Okay, so let's open the conversation about nuclear power as a possibility to save our species fast. And the technology does exist. Russia has it. They're sharing it. They're selling it. They're selling these plants. So we can get up and go. We can do this. Wow. Oh my gosh.